Hey everybody, welcome back for my second edition of Movies, Music, and Mayhem. This is kind of a special episode. I know it's only my second one, but I thought I'd go on with a bang. It is my birthday, and as special guests, I have my older sister, Alicia, and my mother, who you guys all know and love. It is Mama Silvestrini. We couldn't get her video working, but she is here. And before anybody asks, no, she did not bake brownies because I can't eat them. And if I can't eat them on my birthday, they're not coming in the house.
No brownies, no carrot cake.
No brownies, no carrot
but
cake.
I made cheesecake.
For you, which I'm glad, because of
Neither
anybody,
of us can eat that.
I know.
but of anybody that deserves a cheesecake on my birthday, it is the woman who birthed me and carried me for 9 months. So, Mom, salute.
Cheers.
And just gotta make my drink real quick because
I'm just gonna keep drinking mine.
The sweetness of my roommates, who everybody knows I live with, Alex, Marzonia, and Brandon, Hannah, were very sweet last night. And at midnight, they gave me some roses, which are up there. So
pretty.
And they gave me a bottle of booze because they know
Very nice, guys.
they're the sweetest. So
That's
I
nice.
just wanted to give a cheers to my favorite people in the world. I love you guys.
Love you,
Thank
Rachel.
you.
Happy birthday.
Thanks, guys. All right. Clink.
I'm clinking my almond tequila with you.
My mom's so
Oh,
classy.
you finally
guys.
opened it?
Yeah.
She had a tough time of it. All right, so we're gonna get back to our regularly scheduled program. So thank you guys. I love you. I will talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye. I love you, mommy. Okay, so you guys all know the one, the absolute only, Mr. Ben Bateman.
What's up, guys? How you doing? Excited to be here. The Shining Shooter. Thanks for having me here. Thanks for having me on your birthday, no less. It's a special
Yes.
show. I'm honored. I didn't even know until this morning this was your birthday. You didn't tell me when you booked me.
Yeah, well, sometimes it's fun to have a little surprise. But I wanted to have you on as soon as I came up with the idea. I knew I wanted to have you on because I know you have such a unique story. Like you came to where you are in such a roundabout and twisty lane kind of way that I just really wanted to talk to you about it because I don't think that I've ever heard the story. And I was like, should I research and ask him about it? I'm like, no, I want to find out all at the same time with everybody else watching. And then I figured, who else to spend my birthday with?
Aw.
Than Ben.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Well, wherever I got to, whatever that means, I don't know. But I am here, and I have done things that are not what I'm doing professionally now in the past. So maybe the music is what I think you're referring to. But I'm happy to talk about it. It comes up here and there in my life, but not as much as it did when I was younger, obviously. So,
yeah. But that's the reason that you actually moved out to LA was to start your music career, correct?
Yeah. So I moved here. The first time I moved to LA was when I was 17. It was in 2005, and I graduated high school a year early. I'm a June baby, so I graduated when I was 16, and then I moved to LA by myself 3 months later when I was 17. And I had a scholarship, the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, for acting, and I had been playing music for 3 or 4 years at that point. I got into music because I literally just wanted to be Axl Rose. I wanted to be a hair metal singer. That was my goal in life. I think you've probably seen some of the old pictures.
I think I took the most infamous one.
Yeah. And that's what I wanted that was my whole goal. My older brother kind of got me into that stuff as a joke. And so when I was 17, I lived out in LA for about 9 months, did most of a year of school, dropped out, moved back to Seattle. And so when I was 21 and I moved back here for good 10 years ago, I decided that the big passion for me at that point was music. I had done it, largely not for fun, but, more than for fun. Especially the year before I moved, I really decided that was going to be the major focus when I came out here. So from probably 20 to about 20, 5 or so, it was like the biggest focus, especially the first couple years I moved here. And I played a lot of music. I mean, I had one album out, a second one coming. I did like a little bit of mini touring. I worked at a music ad agency and was writing, submitting songs for commercials. Like I was really trying to do it back in like 2010, 11, 12.
Now, those first 2 albums, if you have the link to those, just pop those into the comment section, guys, because I would really love to have those on my mix. So what kind of music? I'm assuming you were playing, because that was right around the time that like all those like singer-songwriters became really strong in the industry. So was that what you were playing, or were you playing like something a little heavier, like your hair metal idols?
No, so I'm actually looking up here so I can send you like a link.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so this was like the opening track. I'll put it in the chat for you off of the old record, the first one. And David Michael Frank, DMF, who did a lot of stuff with Christian when he was launching SEN. David's one of my oldest friends. So he and I were in this band called Fight the Moon. We were actually originally in a band called Ghost, the acoustic duo, when we were like 16, 15. And then Dreams of the Crash was the second one. Then the Fight the Moon was the final one that we did together. And that was probably from like 20 to like, 23, 24. We did it for a few years. And we called this particular album I sent you a link to, the genre was acoustic electro sex pop was what we called it. And it was like all very poppy, written on acoustic guitars, but then produced with like a lot of synth and electric guitars. So we would have been in the same category as like probably like a metro station or like a Boys Like Girls kind of a thing, but like synthier than that, and also with a lot more of a classic rock and roll edge, because we were big like Guns N' Roses and like AC/DC and Led Zeppelin, like the Beatles. Like we kind of came more from that.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm listening to it now. Do you guys hear that? Because I can't tell if you can hear it or not. It's playing in the background on my headphones.
So I can't hear it on here, but because I just did this the other day for the first time on StreamYard. I think what you do is you click screen share, and as long as it's through Chrome that you're doing it, the next screen, one of the options should be share audio.
Gotcha.
And if you click the share audio button along with the video, then it'll actually play the audio.
Gotcha.
Yeah, there you go. So if you can.
Awesome. So let's just listen to this for a little bit while we're talking. It sounds very Andrew McMahon when he went solo.
Yeah, it's
like
funny.
His new like not the Something Corporate and not Jack's Mannequin, but like his solo stuff after that.
We totally like Jack's Mannequin, that sound, that was totally like stuff that I was influenced by. David was always a little more of like the pop punk guy. And so, yeah, we did this. This was fun. We did a lot of this for a few years there. There's funny old videos floating around. And I played solo out here in LA a lot. 2010, 2011, I must have played live 30 or 40 times out here. I mean, a lot of open mics, a lot of like 8-9 song acoustic sets at clubs and bars that aren't even around anymore now. But yeah, I mean, I was doing the acting stuff and then the modeling stuff, but music was like the thing I really wanted to do. So, that's working at a bar and just doing the LA thing.
What was your favorite venue to perform at in LA?
There's a place called Harvell's. I think it's still around in Santa Monica. And Harvell's is pretty cool. I performed there a couple times. There's a spot in Silver Lake called El Cid that's pretty cool. I performed there. There was a festival they used to do called BAM, Beer Arts and Music Festival in Santa Monica, and I did a show there one year with a band I was in a little later on. That was probably like 25 maybe, but that was like when I was writing my favorite music, and I played that. Like it was like a little mini festival, like a couple hundred people, but that was definitely like a lot of fun for me.
Did you ever get to play at the Key Club before it closed down?
No, I never. I mean, with music, I never like got to that next level where I was playing like legit venues with like a real following. You know what I mean? It was very like aspirational, and I loved it. And the record that we put out, I was very proud of, but I never pushed it. And I think that's kind of why I got out of music, was that the realization I had that I didn't want to do it for a living. I didn't ever want to have to do it for 8 hours in a day if I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to sleep in vans or on couches. Like I wasn't interested in that part of it. I liked writing. I love writing music. Performing was super fun, but for it to be a job, it really requires a lot out of you. And I think I realized around that time that's not what I wanted to use my time for.
Yeah, there's a. I'm just gonna take that away. It's one thing to like, because like I know that there are people that are like, I really love the touring side of it, and I love getting to go to the new cities and like sleep in the crappy hotels and drive in a van for 8 hours. Legit, some people do. And then there's people who are like, I can't stand touring. I can't wait to, I just want to live in the studio, write and record new music. So like, it can be really hard to like not love the other like the other side of that coin.
Yeah.
So I completely get that. So then you said you just kind of, you made that realization around what, like 2014, 2013?
I think so if I'm trying to remember exactly how it all worked, there was like the year I moved out here, which was 2009. I got the job with this company, Mophonics, which I was interning. Remember Foster the People?
Oh yeah.
So Mark Foster had been the guy in my position right before me. He was like a kid that was, I don't think he got hired as an intern. I think he might've got hired as an actual composer, but I was essentially like auditioning if I had done well to be in his position. So the funny part was Pumped Up Kicks and that first album was out, but they had this one gorgeous studio that I would go in and produce in. And it was where he had written and produced the entire album, the first Foster the People album, on that computer. So, and the sessions were all still live, which was the funniest part. So I could go in to his actual Pumped Up Kicks session and open it and like move it around. It was totally bizarre. It was on the radio and like that was just available to me because he had written it there. And so I did that in 2010. I remember I worked on a bunch of cool stuff. I produced and submitted tracks for a bunch of stuff. I sang on a Hyundai commercial and got my SAG eligibility because of it. I remember I worked on writing a song with Brandon Boyd from Incuba's brother, Jason. He and I worked on writing some stuff together for a while. There was all these like little floating projects actually that were really fun there for a couple of years in LA, and I had a really good time with. There was a short film, actually, a 22-minute short film that an acting group I was a part of produced, and it was kind of like Scott Pilgrim versus the World a little bit, was like the vibe of it. My friend Johnny Cruz directed it, who, if any of you guys play Overwatch, he's the voice of Lucio in Overwatch. He's like been a pretty big TV actor for a while, but he directed it, and the story of it, this is so ridiculous. I wonder if there's any way I could find it. I only ended up seeing the first cut like a couple years ago after 7 years or something. It never got finished, but it was like this kid who was he was like an assistant janitor and he was a janitor's janitor. And he was like a musician, and the janitor, the main guy, like was like, I can't remember exactly what the story was, but effectively it's like a fairy tale where I was featured as the star playing music in it. I actually performed 3 of our old Fight the Moon songs in it, in the short or whatever. And it's pretty good, actually. It's kind of funny, but I'm like so young. I mean, I'm like this skinny and like, yeah. So anyway, it was for a few years there. It was really fun. And then I had this kind of a second run with it, like a resurgence, maybe in 2014. I met this girl who I was going through a breakup, and I got really inspired. I wrote like a whole album in like 3 weeks. And that was the best stuff I had ever written, I thought. And I performed that quite a lot. And then like 2015, I kind of stopped, and it pops up here and there. And I've got a project I'm working on now to kind of bring it back. But that was the last real run with it that I, went out and did music, like tried to make music my life, sort of.
Nice. Well, you said that you wanted to base your performance and your live music off of Axl.
Yeah.
Who was that like one of your earliest like music memories of like owning your own type of music? Because like we all grow up listening to what our parents play us and what they allow us to play. But then you reach that age of like, usually it's about like 10 to 13 where you like either an older sibling or like you hear it somewhere at like somebody else's house, and you just all of a sudden this whole world of music opens up. So what was that all about for you? So
my memory is that I liked pretty bad music in middle school. Like like Korn was my favorite band when I was like 12 or 11.
Not bad.
Yeah, I mean, but like I just mean like Korn, Limp Bizkit, like that generation. You remember all those bands?
Oh yeah, the metal rap.
Yeah, exactly. The Family Values tour, that whole thing. And so I was really into that stuff. Orgy, and then my older brother, as a joke, when he was in college, he knew these guys were in this like sort of joke band called Excalibur, the Gods of Rock, and they would like they had sweet names like McVon Turnpike and Jake K.R. Steed, Morgan Steed, and I can't remember all their names, but like Ricky Rocket. No, that's a real person. Ricky Rocket was actually a member of Poison, I think.
Yeah.
But but he like told me all these stories that these guys would like write these ridiculous songs and play shows in Walla Walla, Washington, because he went to Whitman. And because my brother's 9 years older, and he's like, growing up when you're that young, he's like your idol, right? I loved everything my brother was into. So I took it really seriously. And as you know from Schmoedown, if I get into something, I get really into it. Like I commit fully to that thing. I want to be like an expert. So with hair metal, the first thing I did, I remember, was my brother was like, I had these compilation albums, The Monsters of Rock. They were like, you remember those old ones you'd buy off TV?
I think I still have a cassette of that.
Yeah. And so, yeah, Peggy Govins here in the chat, Eric Lane. Yeah, Ricky Rocket. He was the drummer, totally.
Mm-hmm.
Or was he? Bobby Dahl was the bass player. Ricky Rocket was the drummer. Obviously, Bret Michaels was the singer, and CeCe DeVille was the guitar player. So anyway, my brother was like, here's all the songs you should get. And like, I was using like LimeWire, I think, at the time, because it was like the post Napster, pre like whatever. And I downloaded all these tracks. But so the first track on the album was like Fallen Angel by Poison. And it had like, Journey Any Way You Want It. And also Open Arms. And it had like Headed for a Heartbreak by Winger, like a bunch of really sweet tracks. And
we'll be putting this playlist together later, guys, by the way, because this is an amazing list.
Oh, it's really good. And so, but the funny part was, if you remember correctly, back when you would download old songs, sometimes they'd be mislabeled. And so my brother was off of college, and I downloaded Journey Any Way You Want It. But the song that I actually got was Shimmer by it wasn't Fuel. It was like some band from around that time. I wish I could remember the band, but it's definitely like one of those like late 90s. One of those late 90s bands. And the funny part was, because I hadn't fully Fuel. Okay, that's what everyone's saying. I hadn't like transitioned yet into actually liking hair metal, right? I was trying to do it because my brother liked it. And I was like, it's all so funny and ridiculous. But the song Shimmer, I didn't associate was a different genre yet. I couldn't tell really. So, and that was my favorite song on the record, because I liked bad music at that point. And so I learned all the words to Shimmer, thinking I had learned Journeys Any Way You Want It. And I was seeing a singing coach because I wanted to be like a rock star or whatever. And the song I learned with my singing coach was fucking Shimmer by Fuel. And so my brother comes home, and I was like, and he's like, what is this? What are you listening to? I was like, it's Journey Any Way You Want It. He's like, that's not Journey Any Way You Want It. Like, that's not that at all. What is that song?
I love that there in nowhere in the song Shimmer are the words Any Way You Want It.
Yeah, but I didn't know.
Like at all.
So anyway, that was like my introduction, and then from there I got like really into it. And so those pictures you've seen, like of me in like the leather pants and the white leather jacket and all that, like I like lived that from probably 14 to like 16, like 2.5 years. I had like aliases. The first one that I went by was Bobby Blastar with 2 R's, because like all those 80s guys had sweet names. That sounds like a porn name. So then the second one was T Guns. I had that one for a while. Tommy Guns, Tommii. It was like basically Tracy Guns from LA Guns. And then the third one, the one that I settled on, was Benjamin Lawless, and I did that for all of junior year of high school. I wore sunglasses in school, refused to ever take them off for 2 years. I signed every single paper, either T-Guns, or once I changed it, I then signed them all Benjamin Lawless. And I like refused to do it any differently. And so that was like I loved that music, right? That was, you're asking, I owned it. Like Guns was my favorite band, but I loved Crew, I loved Leopard, I loved Poison, I loved Warrant, I loved Winger. I would take all of these songs to my vocal coach, this guy, Bruce Howard, this like total, like very eccentric singing coach. And I'd see him every week, and he would teach me to sing like Bruce Dickinson from Iron Maiden. Like when I was like 15, I could sing like 6 octaves. Like I was legitimately trying to learn how to do crazy shit. I did these like singing exercises every day at home that sounded like a cat dying. I mean, like in high school, like I was really serious about this stuff. So I totally owned that genre. And of all those bands, Guns is probably the one that has stuck with me the most. But I still love all of that music.
Now, you lived in LA. We've established in the late 2000s, early 2010s. Did you ever go see Steel Panther?
I did. I saw him back in probably 2014, something like that. And my contention was that I didn't like how much they made fun of the genre. I understood the comedy.
Okay.
I totally understood the comedy, and they were great at it.
Okay.
But I was a way bigger fan of their covers than I was of their original stuff, because the original stuff was too silly for me.
Well, see, that's the whole thing. So for anybody who doesn't know who Steel Panther is, Steel Panther, imagine your dad and 3 of his best friends getting together and dressing in the tightest spandex you've ever seen, putting on wigs and makeup, and go out and pretend to be a hair metal band in the highlight of the era.
Yeah.
Now, they started out as metal school at the Roxy. And then something happened and they ended up getting sued by another band that was named that. But they started off just as a straight cover band. And people would come and the Roxy would sell out instantly. Every week they had a Monday residency. And then as their popularity grew, so did the venues that they had to transfer to. So they were at the House of Blues for a while. They were at the Key Club, which became my home as a merchandise seller. And so I got to know the band really well. And they started, I literally remember walking, I parked and I was walking in through the front door for the Key Club for one of their shows, because I was working merch for the band, I think. And they were filming Community Property, the music video. Outside. And there's a scene in it where the lead singer is Michael Starr, is getting a blowjob in a phone booth right outside of the venue. And they had the big tour bus wrapped with Steel Panther right parked right in front of the venue. And I'm literally walking through and the security guard stops me and I'm like, Brandon, I have to go. I gotta go. He's like, no, they're filming a music video. So I had to stand there and watch a girl simulate giving Michael Starr a blowjob for 4 minutes before I could go to work. And then I got in and Michael came in and I was like, so how was she? And he goes, I didn't come. And I'm like, well, that's a you problem. No, I love those guys. I mean, yes, they do make fun, but their original stuff is so funny. They have they have a song called Fat Girl Darcy Blows.
Yeah,
I'm sure. Incredibly offensive, but
I'm sure that the comedy aspect of it, probably now that it's so many years later, I would probably really enjoy. But I think what I was so impressed by when I saw them live was Kickstart My Heart and all these covers they would do, because I had done so many of those covers and I had worked so hard to try to get good at them. I was impressed by how good they were. And then they would do these originals and I would just be like, this is taking me out of it. I really appreciated how much I enjoyed them as an actually talented cover band of the songs I loved. And I think that was, but I totally get the comedy of it.
Yeah, I also got to see, because half the crowd on any given Monday were celebrities.
Right.
So I remember getting, one night I was up in the balcony and I got elbowed in the boob by Kelly Clarkson and she spilled my drink. And so she grabbed my hand and dragged me to the bar and bought me a new drink.
Oh, cool.
And we hung out at the bar for 20 minutes screaming into each other's ears because it is loud as F in there.
Yeah.
When they were at the Roxy, I remember Paris Hilton bought me a bottle of Jameson because the bartender kept ignoring me and she sauntered up and was I was mystified that she got served first. And I was like, of course you get. She's like, give me a bottle for my friend. And I'm like, you're cool. But Tom Morello was there one night and he played drums for Sweet Child of Mine.
Cool.
It was they used to that was the place to be on a Monday night. You go, you find where Steel Panther was playing and you just fucking enjoy the crap out of it.
That's so cool.
But speaking of live shows, what was your very first concert?
My very first concert that I ever went to was Weird Al Yankovic. It was at the Puyallup Fair, which is this cool fair that's an hour or so from Seattle. And, it's as a kid in elementary school, we'd go to the Puyallup Fair every year. And I remember my friend Jonathan Peck and I were big fans of Weird Al. He was my first favorite. So I had to have been, it was definitely elementary school. So I was 10 or younger, but I think probably younger. I would guess that was probably 8 or 9. And it would have been after Amish Paradise, but before probably Amish Paradise is 95, I think. And I want to say that that next album is probably like a 1 or a 2. So it's probably in that area somewhere, like 97, 98. Yeah, that's about right. It's like, so he was doing, he did all the classics, bunch of costume changes and stuff. And it was awesome.
Yeah, I've never seen Weird Al. I've wanted to, but it's just never happened because once I started really getting into him, I started touring full time. And when you tour, you don't get to see any show other than the one that you're on, which is really depressing. But I have seen a lot of really weird shows that people would just kind of like puppy tilt their head at and be like, why?
Yeah.
What's one that you have seen that people would be like, seriously?
Surprised that I saw? Let's think about that. Like probably some weird opening act would be my guess. Like I would think, oh man, I don't know. It's probably like Papa Roach I saw live. I remember I definitely saw Papa Roach during those Korn days. I saw Michelle Branch once.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw Michelle Branch play once. Those are probably some of the ones that come to mind.
That's fair. Yeah, the only reason I went and saw this, I'm going to preface this. The only reason I saw this was because I was already at work for a company that managed bands, and it was late, and I was avoiding driving up traffic from Orange County to LA. And my boss walked in and said, "Hey, we're going over to the Grove. We have to meet up with a client. Do you want to come?" And I'm like, "Sure." He goes, "Oh, by the way, it's Insane Clown Posse."
Oh, funny. That's a funny one.
That's terrifying. I've never felt so unsafe.
Really?
People were getting in fist fights over empty 2-liter bottles of Faygo that were being thrown into the crowd. Like legit, the crowd would open up and I saw 2 girls beating themselves to a bloody pulp over an empty bottle. It was nuts. Their fans are insane. So I literally walked into the main performance area and put my back against the wall and just shuttled around the room to the side door and ran backstage. I was like, "Get me out of here."
That's bizarre. That's really funny. Yeah, I wouldn't even know what to expect out of an ICP show, but I've heard the stories of the crazy fans before.
It's a little nuts. But so after you have your love of music and your desired career from music industry slide over to acting, you started watching movies and becoming a huge movie fan. So what is one of your favorite uses of music in a movie?
See, it's interesting you bring that up because that's kind of leads into a little bit of this new project I mentioned, which I can talk about a little later. But thinking about that is going to be a big part of what this thing I'm working on is. But because I've always loved when a song has a massive impact. Because I love movie scores too, but specifically when there's an original song or a song used really, really well, it really makes you feel the moment. I think for me, probably the song that's been the most impactful in my life ever from a movie has to be the song About Today by The National, it plays in the final 12 minutes of Warrior, which is how I found out about the band The National in the first place. Which is one of my favorite. It is my favorite movie of all time. But that song and that scene is really it affected me watching it the first time in a way that I don't think I quite realized. And then as it's gone on, and that movie has taken almost a mythical place in my life for just sort of how much there's so many things that have happened because of my love of that movie. But specifically getting to see The National play that song 3 or 4 times, and most notably seeing them perform it live in a backyard in Malibu back in 2015. Drew and I incidentally became friends with the writer of the movie, who then introduced us to the director, Gavin O'Connor, and we got to go be a part of this benefit in a backyard in a house in Malibu. And because The National are good friends of his, they played a 9-song set on a little platform in this backyard. And so Drew and I are 4 feet from the stage as they play through the set. Roxy's there as well, the 3 of us, and we're hanging out watching, and they close the set with About Today because it's the song from the movie and it's all related. And I have a video of it still, I think, and it's really funny because as it gets to the climax of the song, it's not a big crowd. It's people in a backyard, and you can hear Drew and I screaming the lines from the movie. We're screaming the lines from Warrior as they're playing it. Where I was like, oh, it's so good. Tap, Tommy, just tap. You know, like you can hear our voices. It's outrageous. It's really funny.
Wow. Yeah, there's been some really powerful, like, I mean, there's always the iconic uses that Tarantino has of music in his movies that like like, you know how some people say that smells will bring you back to a memory? I have that with songs and with movie scenes. So like when I hear a certain song, I'm like, oh my God, now I want to watch this movie. So like I know that like that's kind of why I actually wanted to start this show, because I have such a love for that. And there's so many movies that, you know, we could go into and talk about, but like Empire Records just had their 25th anniversary release.
Yeah.
And you know, on the 8th it was Rex Manning Day, and so I know Ethan Embry did like a tweet along, watch along to that, and I just remember that soundtrack being so just like a perfect screenshot of that time and that age of music, that even still today, like I could hear, you know, a love struck Romeo.
Yeah, right.
Through the streets of Serenade. Like instantly I'm like, oh, I just want to see, you know, that entire scene from Empire Records just plays through my mind.
Is that's Dire Straits? That's in there?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I don't remember that movie very well. It's I'm pretty sure I watched it with my sister when I was really young, but I've never gone back to rewatch it.
It is definitely one of my favorites. Like the fan cut is far and above better than the theatrical cut.
Interesting.
But yeah, it's so good. And I mean, speaking of LA, you know, rock royalty, Coyote Shivers is in it, and he would like if everything wasn't going on, he would still be performing down in the Viper Room. Like the man is an icon. He still sings that Sugar High song, and it's like, oh my God, it's right back to 95, and it's just fantastic.
Funny.
So you do love scores. What is it about a score that you love so much?
Well, usually it's that it brings me back to the moment in the movie, usually, but not always. Sometimes there's a tonality to a score that creates emotion because the composer is that good, and they compose this piece of music that's not distracted by vocals, and you aren't being told a story that you. That's the nature of lyrics that I always would sort of notice is like, I was a lyricist, but I also, when I would listen to songs, didn't listen to the lyrics first. I listened to the melodies first, because they would affect me more, right? And some songwriters and some songs I would focus more on the lyrics, but I would find that the melody would get stuck in my head, and even the sound of the words rather than the actual words themselves. And so with a score, like my single favorite movie score of all time is Interstellar, and the song particularly on that soundtrack, Where We're Going, I remember after leaving the screening of Interstellar, which I was pretty disappointed by the first time. The movie has grown on me like 100-fold, because a lot of you guys have probably heard it's like one of my all-time favorite movies now. But the first time there was so much hype for that movie, and I remember walking out thinking that it was kind of mediocre, but I could still hear the two notes. The sort of, it almost sounds like this like you know, code, you know, do 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 do. It's like very repetitive, and I could sort of hear it still. It sounded like a computer. And it only struck me later that was the number one thing that I took away from that movie. And as it went on, I realized like that song and something about the melancholy, repetitive tonality of that really spoke to me. So I've listened to the song Where We're Going in that soundtrack, I don't know, probably 1,000 times. It's like there are certain ones that stick with me, and like, and even some movies I've never seen before, where I hear a song from the movie and that really sticks with me.
Yeah, I think that I love the fact that people these days can create so many different things from the materials that are given to them. Like one of my favorite things that I love to do is see a tonality or the idea of a movie get completely changed because of the music.
Yeah.
Like one of my favorite trailers that got messed with was the Mary Poppins trailer. And somebody took it, recut it, and put in creepy music and made it Scary Mary.
Okay, yeah.
And it's like, it's just one of those things that just like, it shows that while you can have a great movie and great performances and amazing script and like a fantastic cinematographer, like having the perfect music to portray like exactly what tone and what feeling you want for the scene or for the overall movie is so equally important to any of those kind of things.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's essential. And the funny thing is, you think about the director, and a lot of directors don't hear the songs first. They direct the movie, and they have an idea of how it's going to sound, but the music comes later. And it's just become such an essential part. You imagine how these scenes in movies would sound without the music. Often, it's like they wouldn't have anywhere near the impact.
Yeah. Although one of my favorite things that I ever found out about movies was, have you ever seen the movie Euro Trip?
I think like on a school bus, like ski trip kind of a thing, maybe, but I don't remember much about it.
So basically the whole premise is this one guy thinks that he has a male pen pal in Germany named Michael.
Yeah.
But it's actually a girl named Mika. And the only picture that she sent was of her with her male cousin Jan, which is spelled Jan. So he thinks that he's writing this guy, but he's really writing the girl. And they're like super close, good friends. And then he basically gets drunk at his senior party and tells her to not touch his genitals because she wants to meet up with him when he goes to Europe or when she comes to America. So he goes to Europe to like, find her and apologize and like profess his love. But the whole movie was created by the writers around the soundtrack that they already had.
Oh, interesting. Because that's in that Scotty Doesn't Know. That's that movie.
Yeah.
That's not Road Trip, right?
No, that Scotty Doesn't Know is Euro Trip.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, with the best cameo of all time
Matt
with
Damon,
Matt
right?
Damon with
Yeah.
the pot tattoo on his neck.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like because I love that movie. I think it's so stupid and so funny, and it's got Michelle Trachtenberg and Kristen. Oh, what's her face? She was in Smallville.
Yeah, Kristen. Not sure.
Starts with the K. Guys, help me out. No, we'll get back to it. But they literally like I love the movie, and then I found out that the writers had the soundtrack first and wrote everything around it. And I thought that was like the most unique thing I'd ever heard.
Yeah.
Because it's usually like the music department's job to find the music to fit the movie, where they did it all in reverse. Kristen Crook.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah, I think that sounds familiar. I mean, I think, there are movies, like favorite movies of mine, that have those scenes that are so essential. I mean, I guess in a lot of my favorite movies now, I come to think of it, I guess Warrior has that, and also, my second, actually a lot of my favorite movies now that I think about it, Boogie Nights has incredible music.
Oh
and
my God.
Obviously Drug Deal Gone Bad has multiple songs that are like that scene in particular, like the music is like a character in the scene. Magnolia, which is one of my favorite movies of all time, also great music.
Yes.
Point Break has a song by Rat in the credits. That's pretty good. So,
and just so everybody knows, we're only referencing the good version, the only one that gets ever talked about.
mm-hmm.
Catherine Bigelow. We don't mention the Bastard Child second version.
Still never seen it.
Nope. Nor do we need to.
Yeah.
I'm willing to lose a belt if it comes down to a question for that.
Yeah.
For that movie.
I can tell you who plays Bodhi. I can tell you that much, but that's about all I can tell you.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah.
Like I literally can't even remember the poster because it made me so viscerally like enraged.
Yeah, it's one of those remakes that is like astounding that it actually happened the way that it did. It's a little bit like the Ben-Hur remake. Though Ben-Hur, at least they got Morgan Freeman in it.
Yeah.
Like some of those ones when they remake a real beloved classic and they just take a shot and it just completely misses is just like, what?
Like
you
every
can't
Robin
realistically remake this for another 20 years now. And you guys blew it.
Or like the King Arthur. I mean, I enjoy Guy Ritchie. I love Guy Ritchie, but his remake of King Arthur was
Legend of the Sword. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a bit hard. But how do you feel about musicals?
Oh, I hate them, but I don't hate all of them. I don't hate all of them.
Okay, but what do you hate about them?
Okay, I have with like classic musicals where it's like a bunch of sort of believable characters, but like without great stakes. Usually, it usually feels very light, very fluffy, and then they break into song to communicate how they're feeling. It doesn't land with me. It's not to say that the acting's bad, the music's bad, but like if you ever watched Saving Mr. Banks, the way Emma Thompson feels about them trying to turn Mary Poppins into a musical is like how I feel about musicals. It's like she's kind of like, the world is bleak. I want these moments in the story to have like resonance. I don't want everybody singing and dancing about flying a fucking kite. Like and I understand that joy is brought to people by that, and I don't mean to discredit anything that anyone loves, because I like a lot of really, really dumb shit that people don't like. But for some reason, they don't land with me. Now, that being said, there are some that absolutely land with me. I was having a conversation about this earlier, but so there's music biopics, there's movies about music, right? And then there's actually musicals. So like if Ray and Rocket Man and Bohemian Rhapsody, those are music biopics. And if movies that are about music are like Crazy Heart and Country Strong and Star is Born, and then, if like pure actual musicals are going to be anything from like La La Land all the way to The King and I can get into certain ones if I love the music or it feels like there's a story there that really speaks to me. Like I love La La Land. I adore that movie. Greatest Showman, couldn't get enough of it. First 45 minutes of Les Mis, absolutely love it. But a lot of like traditional musicals, I just have a really hard time getting into.
Yeah, very different taste when it comes to musicals. No, I just remember sitting, and I know Scott Mance hates me for this because we've actually had this discussion. I was on tour with An American in Paris when La La Land came out, and at the time I had an assistant who was 20 years old, so everything was brand new to her. Like everything was the coolest thing ever. Like she'd never seen a musical before she got on the tour, and like I took her to her first Broadway musical in New York. She hung out with her first band with me. Like she did a ton of firsts. So I took her to go see La La Land, and I'm sitting there, and we're probably about 7 or 8 months into the tour, and we're sitting there, and I'm just being so jaded, just being like, that's ours. That's ours. That's ours. Like whole dance numbers, like color schemes, like themes. And I'm just sitting there so jaded. So like, it's okay. But like, I can see how people love it because
you're talking about La La Land.
La La Land, yeah. I can see how people love it because it is it's such a new thing for so many people. Like there were a lot of people who weren't brought up on musicals like I was.
Yeah.
Like my dad loved old Westerns and he loved Rodgers and Hammerstein musicals. And so I grew up watching Oklahoma and State Fair and like all those old classics. And so now like that's my barometer of great. So now when they release La La Land, I'm like, okay, well, I like American in Paris.
La La Land, though, that I think that I like so much, it's sort of like a lot of the smaller moments, like the bigger, happier numbers are not the ones. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've seen the movie and love the movie and love the soundtrack enough that Another Day of Sun or these big songs, like they're enjoyable, but it's like when she's doing her song Audition, like she's telling a story and it's very emotional. Like that's the song to me that gets me in that movie the most. Yeah. And it's actually even like the story in that movie, like that it's so simple, but it's also so like, it if you've lived here, that I think speaks to me, which is probably why I like that movie. It has less to do with the music and actually more to do. Greatest Showman, I can't actually explain why I like it. Probably has just something to do with the fact that it has Huge in it and he's just the best. He's actually just the best. I
love him.
Yeah.
He played Gaston in Australia, by the way.
Yes, I know that one. I know. He also famously, before he was like a big Hollywood actor, got pretty famous for stage production of Oklahoma, and I think did a TV movie version of it.
I have it.
Oh, really?
I do.
I like older Jackman more, though. He appeals to me more as he gets into his 40s.
I mean, every stage of Jackman, I find something unbelievably. He's just a charismatic dude. Like you just want to watch him. You want to know what's going on. So like, early 20s when he's, doing the stage shows and all that. And then, in his 30s and into his 40s with the whole like X-Men and everything else that he starts doing. Like, he just becomes like a deeper and richer person.
Yeah.
And I think he's definitely like better older. Like there's just something so amazing about, you can't watch Logan and not just be heartbroken and sunk into the entire story, into his character. Like he's so good at it. Like I remember watching that and being like, shit, I'm so sad my dad's not here to see this.
I know.
He would have loved that movie.
Yeah, that movie kills me. We just did it on our greatest movie ever made last week, actually. So we just rewatched it and got to talk about it a little bit more. And it's like, it's immaculate. It's like so well acted, has so much depth, is so rich, really sad. So yeah, he's just the best, which is probably why I like Les Mis at all. It's basically Anne Hathaway's performance of I Dreamed a Dream, and then Jackman, and everything else about that movie sucks.
Yeah. Well, I mean, not everything. Eddie Redmayne was really good in it.
Well, he sounds like a frog. Let's be honest.
Yeah, but he still like gave a like also in comparison to He Who Shall Not Be Named, because his performance, honestly, when he died and fell, like, did you hear the crack of his back when he hit? You're talking
about Javert?
Yeah.
Well, I'm telling you, I've never watched past the first 45 minutes of the movie.
Have you not?
I've seen the first 45 minutes of the movie like 10 times, and I've listened to the soundtrack, but I've never watched past the first 45 minutes.
Okay, but you know what happens. So when he sings Stars,
yes,
which is one of the most beautiful songs ever written for a stage performance ever, gets completely annihilated by him. I was literally sitting in the theater like this.
I think like this. I think the stuff in that movie that succeeds. I mean, I Dreamed a Dream is really, really good.
Yes.
And then some of that early stuff is really good with Jackman. When he gives the guy gives him the silver to go and start his next thing, and that's all great.
So funny story. The priest that gives him the silver candelabra is the guy who originated the role of it's not Javert. Who is it?
Jean Valjean?
Jean Valjean. Yeah, he's the original Jean Valjean on Broadway. Like when you listen to the original cast recording, or you watch that 25-year reunion special on PBS, like I do, like once every 5 months, he plays that character, and it is one of the most beautiful things. Like I went to see it on Christmas Day, on the day it came out in Chicago, with the entire Beauty and the Beast cast.
Wow.
And we're all sitting there. It's a packed theater. We're so excited. And as soon as he came on screen and we saw him, our entire group was just like, yes! And everybody was like, what's going on? And we're like, that's the guy, the original guy.
That's cool.
Never mind, we'll tell you that later.
Yeah, One Day More, I love. It was amazing. At one point, I was trying to convince Riley to name Who's the Boss One Day More, but Christian was like, that's stupid. You guys can't do that.
Oh, you mean like Seize the Day or Seize the Car? Because I think it would be funny. No, I think they did a lot of things well with Les Mis. Honestly, the fact that they cast Sacha Baron Cohen as why am I blanking on his name?
I can't remember. He's in the second half of the movie.
From Master of the House.
Yeah.
You gotta push through. You gotta finish watching the movie because as bad as Crow is, everything else is fun and just amazingly done. Like you haven't seen her sing oh my god, now I'm blanking because I was going from movies to musicals. On my own.
Yeah, well, remember, I've listened to the soundtrack a lot, so like so I know all the songs, like all the best parts of it. I've definitely heard, and it's kind of a running joke. I won't watch past the first 45 minutes because I like to say that I love the first 45 minutes of that movie, but maybe someday I actually will. It is my dream in schmoedown. You know this, right? You've heard me talk about this. That it is my dream to win a title if they ask me what is Jean Valjean's prisoner number, and I get to sing 24601. That's like everything I want. If I can win a match that way, I'll yeah.
If you get that in a match against me and that's how you beat me, I am going to feel so angry and so proud at the same time.
Bibiani once got what did Jean Valjean steal, and he was like bread. Yeah, but
I actually, did you know I got a question right that Bibiani and Andreyko missed on a musical?
No, what was it?
So we were off to the side playing. I can't remember who was playing at the tables, but it was in what classic musical does Jerry the Mouse dance with Gene Kelly?
I mean, the only American in Paris?
No.
What is it?
It's Anchors Away.
Oh yeah, no chance. He's probably not even an American in Paris, is he?
Gene Kelly? Yeah, he is. He actually choreographed it and co-directed.
There you go. I guess it was in there somewhere.
But yeah, they got that. They both got that wrong, and I was like, "Really, guys?" And from that moment, I was like, "I want a musical off with those two."
Yeah, I mean, Andreyko loves musicals.
We've talked repeatedly. Actually, he was really sad that I joined the schmoedown after I stopped touring with musicals. because like before then, I think I stopped in when I took Roka and Makuga out to lunch like a year before I joined the league. And Roka loves musicals, which I found shocking, and Makuga despises them like so much. And so when we were talking about that, I was like, yeah, any show that comes into LA, like I can get tickets to, because whether it's crew or cast or production management, like I know somebody on that tour. And so when I told Andreyko what I used to do, he was like, I wanted to go see American in Paris so badly. And I was like, well, sorry, bud.
That's funny. I in high school, I wrote a heavy metal musical based on all that stuff I was telling you about. It was called, I think it was called 18 in Life, based off of the Skid Row song, because Sebastian Bach was my favorite singer. So I think like I probably still have I would have to think I have it written somewhere. But I mean, it was like, you had all these classic songs in there. You definitely had 18 in Life in there. You definitely had Jump by Van Halen was in there somewhere. I wish I could remember all the different ones, but it was pretty silly. It was definitely pretty silly.
I'm going to need you to find that. Because I have a few people that I need to get that to, because after Broadway reopens, they're going to need new shows. And who wasn't going to want to go see a ridiculous metal comedy?
Yeah, it was probably pretty silly, I have to think, but who knows, to be honest. Like, it's probably like 16-year-old me was a lot more brilliant than 31-year-old me actually is, Well,
I mean, if Rock of Ages could be on Broadway and then made into a musical.
When Rock of Ages came out, I remember thinking like, this is like the dumber version of like what I wanted to do.
Oh my God, I wanted yours is better. We have to get this made. Like, I know people that will get this made. Hell, if quarantine goes on long enough, we could get it made this way.
Yeah, seriously. I wish I could remember some of the other songs. It's got to be, they've like got to mostly just be, my favorite bands. That's right. So 18 in Life. So he's 18 and he gets thrown out of his house. And he meets this girl, and then they're like out or whatever, and she breaks into song. She does the winger, I'm only 17. And she turns out she's a year younger and she's not out of high school yet. She lied. And like, I wish I could remember all the songs, but I know those ones were in it. Cause if I went down the list of all my favorite bands from the time, I probably would have put one of each of my favorites,
Yeah. Well, I mean, like jukebox, what you're describing is what is referred to as a jukebox musical, where they take songs that have previously been written from a certain genre or whatever and put into a musical. It's what they did with American Idiot, even though it was just, the Green Day songs. It's, Rock of Ages and stuff like that. So it's like songs that are already made. And it's so sad that like Broadway purists are kind of snooty and they like kind of look down their nose at those. But those are some of the funnest ones. Like, honestly, I went and saw, oh my God, what was the name of it? It was the Queen musical.
Yeah.
We Will Rock You.
Yeah. Yep.
That was a piece of shit. Oh my God. I love the fact that Brian May was like incredibly involved with it, but oh buddy. Oh my God. He actually gave one of his guitars to the tour to use on the tour, like, because they have this whole setup where it's on the stage, and then they have this riser above the stage where the band is. So the band performs above the stage. So every now and then they could like move the lights up and like focus on the band that's playing while they're like changing sets or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's a fun way to incorporate them. But a friend of mine had Carp on the tour, and I got to go see them in DC when we were in Bethesda, or across the bay, and I took a night off and went to go see the show. And apparently she forgot to tell me that it's a 2-drink minimum, not required by like the theater, but 2-drink minimum just to kind of get through the story and the plot.
You just needed a drink.
I sat through the first act, just kind of like, what is going on? It is awful and terrible. The songs and the performances were by and far so phenomenal. But the show itself was real rough. And thankfully I had been at that theater a few months before, and so the bartender remembered me and gave me 2 triples to take back to my seat.
So I see a bunch of people in the chat here on the
Yes.
subject of movie music, and they're referencing Sing Street, which is a movie that I only saw last year. Not even last year, probably. It was either last year or early this year. I saw it for the first time. And Sing Street is,
Yes.
you know, have you seen it?
I of course I have. It is by and far one of my favorite newer musicals.
So it's incredible, and so it brings me up because this is kind of cool, actually. I mentioned this project I'm working on in music, and so I have this channel I'm launching really soon. Probably, honestly, guys, I will probably announce the official launch of this on Action Guys next Sunday because I want to have a little bit of content in the can. But basically, it is a new channel. It's called Nerds in Suits. It's a brand that I already have all the artwork and it's all designed. It was going to launch as something else a while back, and it's going to launch with 2 shows, one of which is going to be a one-on-one interview show, because that's something I've always wanted to do. It's been a long-time goal of mine to interview the people that I'm sort of the most fascinated by. And the other show is going to be this music and movies show. And so the idea is that I'm going to take, it's funny you asked me the first question, a song in a movie, because I'm going to take a song that I love from a movie and a scene that I love in that movie. And I'm going to first take a couple minutes to explain to the camera why I think it's great, why it works in that scene, why I love it so much, and it had this impact on me. And then I'm going to cover it right there with my acoustic guitar. And that'll be its own series. I'll do probably one a week, I would think, because some of them I'll have to learn and actually want to make like a decent arrangement of these songs. But the song, I think probably the one from Sing Street I'm going to do is Up. I don't know if it would be, because I love some of the other songs and they're all great, but that's the one that I remember like watching it the first time. And as a songwriter, when he's playing it, you know, and he says 2 o'clock in the edge of the morning, and you're like, oh, this is the hit. You're like, I can already tell this is the hit. It's the other one, Riddle of the Model's good, but this is the hit. He's got it. He's figured it out. And I remember like watching him play it in the movie and thinking like, I remember what that feels like. Like when you write the one part in the one song and you're like, oh yeah, like this works. This actually works. This is not me like trying to square peg a round hole here. And I think I'll probably do Up as the one from that movie, and I'll probably do it as one of the early songs. There's a bunch that I'm really excited to do, and I love movies so much that it should be a really fun show.
And I think that song especially like really fits your voice, because there are so many songs that like people that are singers would love to sing, but it doesn't work with their voice, or like it takes a very specific way to sing it or arrange it so that it will work. But I think that one is just like, as soon as you said Up, I was like, that's like literally taking the square peg and putting it into the square hole. Like it's a perfect fit. I think that's absolutely great. I'm so excited that you're going to start performing a little bit more.
I'm really excited for the show. I mean, I was thinking like, because there's all these songs over the years that I can remember putting on movies, on soundtracks, right? Like Grow Old With You from the end of Wedding Singer is another one that I always loved when he finishes the movie with that song, right? There's just a lot that I think I'm really excited to do. So I'll announce more about it, but that's the thing I got coming up.
Yeah, for those of you who haven't seen Ben Bateman perform live, it is something to behold. He did it live in New York last year, which was epic. I'm sure you've seen the pictures of him in the wigs. But still, I mean, even taking that out of the equation, like just seeing you on stage perform with just your guitar, like you looked so at home. And like, you know, I've worked in the music industry for fucking forever. So like, It's so funny for me to like watch somebody on stage and be like, oh, this is like their 3rd time on stage. Like I can nail it down. But like watching you on stage was just like, oh man, look at how at home he is. You were so happy and so good. It was so much fun to hear you sing and like,
thank you so
witness
much.
that part of it.
I really appreciate it. Yeah, it was, I mean, when I was younger, it meant so much to me, you know, and I loved it. And you get older and other things kind of take priority, and music, it's so funny, Rachel. Like because of schmoedown and hosting, I do so much stuff that's so right up here. Like all of it stems from here. It's the reason I stopped acting, is I had a really hard time shutting this off and doing it from here. And where it's purely emotional and you are connecting to like a moment. And that's what really great music requires. It's rehearsed the same you have to hit your spots.
Yeah.
But you've done all the rehearsals so that when you put yourself in that position, the physical takes over and you do it right. And so with music, that's the only thing I've ever done in my life where I could really disconnect enough from this to be authentic. It's one of the reasons I was not a very good actor, is like, unless I was playing a character that was kind of just exactly like me and doing scenes, talking just like we're talking right now, I would like not do well. Like I auditioned for all these CW shows way back in the day, and I just never could never be authentic, even though a lot of the actors on the shows are bad anyway, which is ironic.
Oh my God. I would have loved to have seen you taking the role of Adam in Supernatural. You would have been so good. You could have just slid in there right with like Jared Padalecki and Jensen Ackles, because you're tall, you look like them, you got the scruff. It would have been amazing and perfect. And I would have loved to hear you sing with Jensen, with Jared playing guitar, because
Is that something they do?
On the side, yeah. Jared kind of picks up the guitar, but Jensen started performing in front of the convention crowds, because they do these conventions with Creation Entertainment that I used to go to. I'm a huge fan of Supernatural. And so on the Saturday nights, they would have these Saturday night concerts. And Rob Benedict, who plays Chuck, aka God, has a band called oh my God, why did I just blank out? And there's an ambulance. But he has a band that performs that night, and they'll have all the actors and stuff like come on stage and sing songs. And so at the beginning, like Jensen started like just kind of dipping his toes in, and he is so comfortable nowadays on stage singing. His cover of Simple Man by the Allman Brothers is like far and beyond one of my favorite covers of all time. He has such a beautiful, deep voice and just like knows how to harness it. Plus he's an actor, so he can emote on stage. But a friend of mine who was a singer used to say that he had the same issue. He had trouble getting out of his head and like down into his heart and to his gut. And so every now and then I'd be at their shows and be like, drop it. Because he had this whole image that like he was just kind of like stuck in this elevator shaft in his head.
Yeah.
And he was just stuck in that little cube. And I would just say, drop it. And he would visualize the whole thing dropping into his heart and stomach, like right in his chest, and just project from there. And it was like, as soon as he started doing that full time, like you couldn't stop him. And you couldn't take your eyes off him.
Yeah. You get that confidence. I mean, it's like a different kind of confidence.
Oh yeah. But I mean, I hope you get to perform live. I think that would be so much fun. I mean, if you started doing that again.
I kind of have a little bit of like a dream with the next step of my career. And it's, I've started to get enough sort of a base of support from fans. The Action Army is really amazing, and they're really supportive. And with the Magic the Gathering stuff, it's done well enough now that we have a real foothold there. And so kind of the next places that I really wanted to expand into, I wanted to expand back into music, because it's something I do love. And I know that now with, so many people making content from home, I don't need to have 1 million fans. I don't. But I believe I'm good enough that I could have a small number of fans, and that could kind of fuel that passion for me and make me feel like I was playing to someone. Because at least I know there's probably at least a couple people in the Action Army and my various fan bases that would enjoy hearing it. And I think probably step one is this show, because it'll force me to do something every week, and it's easy, and they're covers. And then I think step two is probably to start writing stuff again, and then start to think about actually playing live. But that's, I want to take the steps first to get there. But It is just something I love doing. It's so much in my life at one point that now that I'm a little more at home here and I'm not depending on people showing up, I don't need the videos to do well. I just want to do it because I really, truly want to do it. I'm hoping that I can get that momentum back rolling again.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see you not doing that, because we have so much time to do whatever you want to do these days. And, we have these platforms nowadays that anybody with a Wi-Fi feed can put out whatever they want, and it will find an audience.
It's funny. So right in 2014, when I got into hosting, I started at AfterBuzz TV, and one of the very first show I ever covered was this show that I think just ended, called The 100, or it's about to end. Yeah. It's like a post-apocalyptic show. And I was like a year removed, not even from music at that point. And so I like early on was like, all right, Lindsay Morgan, she's like this actress on the show. She's like super hot, you know, but more than anything, I was like, I really want to have like a favorite on the show who's not the main person. And I want to try to get her attention. I had like 400 Twitter followers or something. And so the third episode, I think, I wrote her a song and I was doing the after show for AfterBuzz TV. And I like wrote her a song and I performed it live at the end of the after show. It's probably, I'm sure it's still out there. Probably on. I've probably even put it on like a YouTube channel at one point.
Nothing ever disappears.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find it. But I put it out there. And what ended up happening was, she didn't tweet at me, but Ricky Whittle, who was at that point a smaller actor on the show, tweeted at me and was like, "Great song. I'm sure Lindsay loves it." And from there, Ricky and I became friends. He ended up having like a much bigger career later. He stars in American Gods now. Yeah. And he ended up having like a big, huge national media story that broke that I did the interview for with AfterBuzz. And we became friends because I wrote this song. Mm-hmm. So music's always had a little bit of a place. That's like a step in kind of moving my career forward, even if it wasn't sort of the primary thing I was doing.
Yeah. Well, I know you mentioned on backstage this last week that you don't get to watch a lot of TV.
Yeah.
Because you're studying so much. I would highly recommend watching Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist.
Okay.
It is kind of a musical version. So the premise is that this girl goes in for an MRI. And you know, when you get an MRI, they can play music. And so she's like laying in the machine and the tech is like, well, what do you want to listen to? And all of a sudden, it happens in San Francisco. And all of a sudden an earthquake happens and all of the music from all of the internet downloads into her head. And then she walks out and starts watching people express themselves, their internal thoughts and feelings by dance and singing in front of her. And so the very first number is Help by the Beatles. And it's as she's walking down the street in San Francisco and the whole city basically just starts singing and dancing this song. And she's the only one that can see them doing this because it's like literally just like their internal projections of it. And it is one of the most amazingly talented and poignant musicals that I've ever seen. It is such a good show. I think they're on I think episode like 10 or 11 is airing on Sunday, but you can catch up on Hulu. It's like so beautifully put together and they put these amazing mixes on songs and it's just one of those fun things that I love about like people playing with music and like Brandon's actually he hosts the after show for it on
AfterBuzz.
Yeah, on AfterBuzz. And so
That's
like
awesome.
He and I will watch the episode together. And then he'll instantly like run off to his room to do the after show. And I'll just hop on my laptop and like type in the comments and stuff. But like, we'll be talking throughout the entire show about like, you know, the underlying meanings behind the song originally and how it applies to the show. And it's such a beautifully put together show that I think you would really enjoy it because they do like all pop music.
Yeah.
So it's like all songs that people know.
There's definitely like a moment in my life where I'm very excited to get back into playing music into watching TV. I got my wires crossed there because, you know, like it was always something I loved. Like I loved television. I guess the schmoedown makes you kind of OCD as far as like what you feel like you have time for. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I completely agree. Now I've gotten a few Streamlabs that have come in. I got one from Brandy that said, no question, just happy birthday, Rachel, and I hope you're doing well, Ben.
Oh,
thank you for that, Brandy. Brandy is the sweetest. Sean the Saint Sullivan sent in some money and said, Rachel, happy birthday. Don't forget to plug your Streamlabs. Streamlabs are right up there. Also, hi, Ben. Hope you're feeling better.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm trying.
Anthony Nugent sent a very generous Streamlabs. I love you. He goes, can't watch live, but dropping in to give a like and wish the amazing Rachel Silvestrini happy birthday. I love you so much. Anthony does so much for so many of us guys. Help him. He's got a bakery out in, I want to say Australia. I don't want to insult you if you're a Kiwi and not an Aussie.
He's incredible, yeah.
He is the nicest man. He's constantly on SEN Live sending in super chats. He is the nicest human being. We love you very, very dearly. Find out where his bakery is, help him out however you can. And then Meg's donated a few bucks and said, love hearing all these fun backstories. What is the furthest you both have traveled for a concert or performance? Mine was 3 hours from for Riverdance. Happy birthday again, Rachel. Excited to see you get more amazing guests. Have you seen Riverdance?
I remember Riverdance, and I remember it on TV. I never watched it, but
I got to go see it live. No joke. A friend of mine was like, my girlfriend dumped me. Do you want to go to Riverdance? I'm like, I will absolutely be your pity date. I have no problem with that. And we sat in some of the worst seats and we just watched these people like sweat for 3 hours. And it was one of the most amazingly athletic things I've ever seen in my life.
Wow. Yeah, no, I mean, it's what was his, I used to know the guy's name, the main guy.
Michael Flatley.
Michael Flatley. That's his name.
Flatley. His legs move as if independent from their body.
Yeah, no, it's very impressive. It's very impressive. I don't know what the furthest I ever traveled for a concert was. To be honest, I don't know if I ever drove like a really far distance to go see one. I would routinely drive out to the Gorge, which was like 2.5 hours from Seattle, to go see Dave Matthews when I was in middle school. I did that a lot. Okay,
but going to the Gorge isn't a trip. It is a religious experience.
Yeah, it's amazing.
When I was on Warped Tour, we would play. That was like our Seattle date because they could never say whatever city we were in because people would be like, "Where are you in Washington?" So it was Seattle's date. We were at the Gorge, and whatever band was playing the Sunset set would get an extra 15 minutes.
Yeah,
and it was always around like 7:30, 8, well, about 8:30. And so all of the people that had worked for sponsors were already closed down. So everybody would just stand on that stage and just everybody would have a drink. And that was like our communion together. Like the sun would be setting behind us. It was just this really beautiful ritual that always happened there. And it was just one of the most beautiful experiences.
Yeah, I always really loved it. It was always one of my favorite things. One of my favorite things to do. I love going to the Gorge. I found this song. You want to hear this?
Oh my God, yes.
This is pretty funny. I think I might actually just be able to share it from here. Actually, it looks like I can do it.
Oh, good.
1 second here. Let's see here. Oh man, every time I watch one of these videos from this time, I'm always like, man, I was skinny.
Yes, Peggy, it is Miss Chenandler Bong. Thank you for getting that reference. It makes me so happy.
All right, let's see.
One of the best episodes of Friends.
Chrome tab. There we go. Share audio. Let's see if I can get this to work.
For those of you that don't know what the Gorge is a venue like an hour and a half outside of Seattle, I want to say.
Okay. Yeah, like probably 2.5, I'd say. A little more like that.
Yeah, I've never had to drive from Seattle out there. We always just drove straight there. Here, let me see if I can play it. And so... but the stage is set at the edge, like the back of the stage is set at the edge of a cliff.
Yeah.
And it's at the edge of this cliff that's a ravine, and there's these amazingly beautiful like red buildings that happen. All right, hold on. I'm gonna.
Yeah, stunning. No, it's a very gorgeous. Like it's you can see to the back of the stage, right? So it's like a big it's a gorge, right? And it's like it's definitely like a unique experience. I've never gone to another venue that feels like going to the Gorge.
No, it is phenomenal. Okay, so let's.
All right, I think I got this. Ready?
I got it.
Should be audio.
Look at you, baby Ben. I think you still wear that shirt to tapings.
Sometimes, yeah. Wait, do you have the audio?
Oh, sorry. Hold on. I forgot to click share audio. Sorry, guys.
No worries.
Stop screen. Let's do that one more time. Share. There we go.
There you go. Me trying to just get her attention if I could.
I like the eye contact with the camera. That's important.
It's all like written about the characters in the show. For
any of you aspiring lead singers out there, always make eye contact. It sells it. It doesn't have to be with anybody you mean it with. Just make eye contact with your audience.
Keep fighting, yeah. This song's for you, 'cause you never ever give up the fight. This song's for you, 'cause we could use a little Lindsay in our lives.
Pretty good, right?
That's fantastic.
Any Wednesday night, you've got a home. You're the best, be our guest. This song's for you. You gotta see right here at a mic.
This is me trying to book her as a guest. So
Yeah, just as a
the
guest.
right thing to do.
Sure, baby.
Make it back. The clock is
you can kill it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was my my attempt back then. So the funny part was that's back in 2014, I think, and 2015, probably right around there. But so eventually, she like tweets back at me, you know, the next like spring or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And a year later, there's all this drama with Ricky. I mentioned he leaves the show. And it's a big moment in my career because I get a bunch of new fans, and I do this interview and whatever. And he comes, so Lindsay reaches out to me. She follows me on Twitter, gives me her number, like she's going to come on the show. She's excited to come on the show. Finally, it's taken a year and a half at that point. And I do this interview with Ricky, and it blows up and gets picked up all over the world, but it's like pretty bombastic. He goes after the showrunner. So that was on a Tuesday. She was supposed to come on and do an interview Thursday. Wednesday, they pulled her as a guest. And I got blackballed from doing any more interviews for that show. Basically, I couldn't book it. I couldn't book another guest for like whether it was Comic-Con or in studio. Like I could never get an answer after that. It was never like acknowledged. Like when I say blackballed, I don't mean like somebody was like, "We're never going to let you have a guest." That was never confirmed. But I had like total access to that point. And after that interview, I could never ever book somebody again. So like. Yeah, so brutal because I remember like she was on a red carpet. Somebody asked her about it. She was like excited, and I just never got to do the interview. So finally, at like Saturn it's called Saturn Fest, Saturn Con,
the Saturn Awards.
Saturn Awards. There you go. Sorry, the awards. She was like presenting an award like a couple years ago, and so I finally met her on a red carpet for like a minute. But like it had completely died at that point. I was no longer covering the show. Like. It just was it was like so great to meet her, but like so anticlimactic, I remember. But yeah, that song performance was that was like my attempt. That was my early guest booking attempt.
Oh, I mean, A+ for the effort. That is amazing. I mean, first of all, wooing a girl to be your girlfriend versus wooing somebody to be on your show. Not exactly a big difference. So do those mixtapes, write those songs, don't submit your fanfic. That could get really weird. But like, yeah, it's an incredibly flattering thing as long as it's not taken too far. I feel like there has to be an asterisk at the end of everything that I say, which is insane.
No.
Well, yeah. I mean, talk to Christian. It's fine. I kid. I love you. But yeah, it's just one of those things that you have to take your shot. You have to shoot your shot.
Truthfully, at the time when I was doing it, I was really truly trying to book her as a guest. I mean, I had a crush on Lindsay Morgan as like an actress, but like that wasn't. I didn't think I was gonna like write her a song and start dating the actress on the show. I really was legitimately trying to book her as a guest, and
obviously. Yeah. But like still,
yeah, right.
You gotta woo. You gotta schmooze. You gotta rub some elbows. You gotta talk up some egos every now and then. And
yeah, right.
I mean, that's how I got you, right? Just told you could sing. Yeah. No, actually, do you remember what was I on for you guys? I was on Unfiltered, right? Action Unfiltered. Is that the show that I got to come on?
It was on a Sunday night.
Yeah.
You might have come on the Action Guys, actually.
Okay.
Can't remember if we had started doing it officially as the Action Guys or if we were still doing. We might not have launched the Action Guys yet at that point when you had played, so it might have been Action Unfiltered before we officially launched the Action Guys. But yeah, it was a Sunday night show, and we got you a cake, but you don't need cake.
Well, no, I do. I just have a massive allergy to milk and all its dairy substances, and I am vegan. So I got to enjoy a feeder's complex and watch you and Drew eat the cake, which was hilarious.
We ate a lot of cake. It was a good cake. We ate a lot of it.
You did. I'm pretty sure you guys each ate like 2 slices in front of me, but I did hang out for a while afterwards. And during that hangout, during the show, I remember you and your Action Army making me sing.
Yes. What did you sing?
I don't remember because you kept plying me with whiskey.
That sounds correct. Sounds accurate.
I'm pretty sure it was terrible because there's a reason I sell merchandise and do management. But afterwards, I remember the 3 of us hanging out, and you were literally like, I've never seen you more relaxed than in this exact moment. You had your guitar in your lap. You were sitting in the crook of your couch, and you had your legs up on the couch, and you were just playing, like strumming the guitar and like singing to yourself so low key. And like, we locked eyes for a quarter of a second. And I was like, I don't think I've seen that side of you ever. And it was just this super like, this is who I am. I'm super chill. Like, I'm here. I'm with my music. Like, I don't have to have the suit on.
The suit.
I think you were also going through like your back issues. So I think you had like a super grizzled beard. It was just like the most at peace I think I've ever seen you. And it was like the most amazing thing to witness.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the truth of the matter is you get older and you have a lot of things going on that you're trying to pay attention to. And we've all got, whether they're like the responsibilities that are like our favorite ones or they're artistic ones or whatever it is, you're still paying attention to so many more things once you get, into your 30s than you were doing when you were in your teens, in your early 20s. And I always talk about like, I loved the memories of my life when I was 22, 23, 24, and I worked at a bar 4 or 5 days a week, and that was the only income I had, and I could get fucking hammered drunk, wake up the next day, and all I had to do was go hiking and run some hills and go to the gym and stay in shape because that's the only thing that I actually had to do. I didn't need to do anything else. And I was,
or even just hop in a cold shower and you're ready to go.
And you could recover faster and you didn't have so many aches and pains. And I know that it's kind of like you can never go back to those moments in your life because they represent like a time, they represent an age and also just a level of maturity and responsibility, but they're such good memories. And that's, that moment you're talking about the guitar is probably like me connecting to some part of me where like, I think I just had a little bit less of the like, money ball, as Dan calls it, going on all the time. I feel like I'm moneyballing a lot of things in my life a lot of the time. That's not just schmoedown. It's like very much how I like to try to sort of calculate my time and live my life. And so I think there's just not that many things I can do that I can disconnect from that.
Well, I mean, the way that you treat the schmoedown and like the whole moneyball mindset, like honestly, that doesn't click in and take as such an effect on people if they're not already mentally wired to think that way. So I think that you've always been wired like that. You just found this amazing way to like click into it and like activate it and make it kind of prosperous for you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, if you had told me when I was 12 years old, someday you're going to be able to memorize stats about movies and actually make it work in your career because you memorized things.
Yeah, you know how you're a big nerd in math? Well, it's going to pay off later.
Exactly. It's like, what? That doesn't sound like a real thing that would ever happen.
Yeah. You're like, that's not going to apply to life.
Yeah.
No, actually, I got so I have amazing roots with my hometown and like the high school and junior high and even elementary school that I went to, like my dad and like his brothers went to. So like growing up, I was like just a legacy constantly. Like I would never walk into a classroom and be like, oh, you're Craig's daughter. Or, oh, are you Craig's or Rick's? Like,
right.
It was just like this thing. And so growing up, you just have this, ability to just kind of like slide into all of that. And I can't remember what the point was that I was trying to make because it just floated away. Oh, but it just gets to this point where, you find your strengths and you find what you're meant to do. And I actually became friends with a lot of my old teachers. And when I go home, whenever I go back to San Jose, I always stop by my old high school and go see my favorite teachers who were still there. And one of them was my U.S. government, U.S. government teacher in my senior year. And I went to go back and see Mr. Pugh, and he's like, "Oh, have you seen the wall?" And on his back wall were these guitars that were cut out of paper that people had drawn on like what their dreams were and put them like in the embodiment of guitars. And I was like, where was that project when I was here? Like, the hell? And he goes, oh yeah, they would really enjoy hearing from you around for a little bit. And I was like, yeah. So I came in and like talked to his class of seniors about like, what you can do with the things that and the things you're passionate about and how you can lead that to different career paths, because I never thought that I would be, touring with musicians or Broadway shows when I was in high school. Like, I wanted to be a kinesiologist. I wanted to work, I wanted to be the trainer for like the San Jose Sharks or, the Boston Bruins. Like, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to work with hockey players or football players and like be that person for them. I never in a million years would have thought that by getting my massage therapy license, it would have led me to being on Warped Tour, which would have led to me being, selling merchandise for all of these bands, which would have led to me being working for Disney and traveling with them. And like, just everything, just every domino that falls can lead to completely different avenues. And I think that I think you can understand and appreciate that.
100%.
Well.
Yeah, you never know. You got it. It's probably the greatest piece of advice I ever got from this super, super, super rich guy. I met on an airplane like 7 years ago or something like that. And I remember for whatever reason, this is long before I was ever traveling, and I got upgraded to first class because of something. Like, they fucked up and whatever. And I'm sitting next to this guy, and he's flying home to San Diego, where he's built this giant home with his wife and his 2 kids. And he's like telling me the story. And he's basically like, X happened, and then Y turned into this small stake in this company, and my friend, and I stuck with it for a couple of years, and then that turned into this other company, and I got stock options. And like, he tells the whole story, and he's just like, the great lesson is you can lock into what it is you think you're going to do and what you want to do and the way the story you think it's going to go. But if you're unwilling to pivot from that story to ride the wave as it comes along, you will not enjoy life. You have to be able to ride the wave as it comes and enjoy it as it comes. Because trust me, like, I still love all the things I loved along the way, but I'm in the most successful position now to be as happy and have security and have have a family, take care of a family. And I think there's obviously a level to that. You have to be able to, like, you can't just sacrifice everything for the sake of comfort, but yeah, I definitely think you can learn a lot from that. I learned a lot from that. I just remember having that conversation. I've thought that often as my life has gone on, make sure to appreciate the ride as you're on it.
That seems like both the opening and the closing scene of your biopic.
My
biopic. You know what I mean? Like, that's how it starts off, and people just kind of like discount this creepy guy that was talking to you randomly on some flight, and then the rest of your life story gets told, and then on your deathbed you reminisce about it, and like, that's the scene that plays, and then fade to black.
Rachel, I'll take it as a compliment. If you are telling me I'm going to have a biopic someday, it means I'm going to do a lot more than I've ever done. So I'll keep fighting for that. I'll keep fighting for that story.
Babe, as old as I feel from all of my years on the road, and even though I turned a day older today, like, we are young. Like, there is so much left to be lived. Like, I turned 36 today, and I have no problem saying that, because I have done so much in the time that has been given to me that, honestly, should I be hit by a bus tomorrow or get struck by lightning tonight? Like, I have lived, and that would be an amazing biopic. But we still have so many years left to experience so many different things, and who knows what's going to happen tomorrow? Like, who saw this pandemic coming?
Yeah.
I mean, aside from, scientists and world health experts, but like, who figured that we were going to have this incredible lockdown that is horrific and so ridiculously amazing for creation and like things just happen, and you have to figure out how you're going to handle them and how you're going to rise out of those ashes. And it's one of those magical moments where, who are you going to be?
Right. Absolutely.
So, okay. So there were a few questions. Oh, Manny, did I leave my guitar after talking to the seniors? I didn't have a guitar. I don't sing. I don't play music. I have broken a steering wheel playing air drums when I first moved down here when I was 20 years old on the 101. But no, I do not have a guitar, and nor did they have a spare one for me to fill out. I do love this. Music can really connect you to a mood, to people, to memories. I have met some of my favorite human beings at concerts. I was 19 and going to concerts in San Francisco, and one of my best friends and I, who is now one of my best friends, we haven't talked in forever, but that's because we're best friends and we can do that. She lives in Virginia with her fiance, I think. They're engaged. They've been together long enough to be engaged. But we were in the same lines for the same shows. Like, we would go see Fall Out Boy and Brand New and Nest and Stun together. But we were always in the same lines for the shows at Slim's and the Fillmore, and we just started becoming friends. And now, like, she's one of my favorite people on the face of the planet. So I completely agree. This is me in a nutshell. Yes. Yes, Jill. I will. I mean, I don't want to say I'll do anything for whiskey, but if you get whiskey in me, we'll figure it out. There was another question here. Oh, I always look both ways, but you never know what happens.
Yeah, right. Just get hit by a car tomorrow. No.
No, could, but won't. So what was your favorite concert that you've ever been to?
The best one that I ever saw.
Maybe not the best, but your favorite, because I've seen some really bad concerts that were pretty fantastically fun.
I mean, some of those Dave Matthews concerts when I was younger were pretty awesome. There was a Radiohead show I once saw. There was an Atoms for Peace show that I saw once, and some of the national shows. I've seen a lot of great shows. I think one that really comes to mind was a particular moment at a concert. So I was driving on my way. So Tom Petty's my favorite artist of all time, and I was driving on my way to the Bowl to go see the last show that he ever played. And I never saw him. I never got to see him play. My older brother was in town who loved Tom Petty, and I grew up listening to my brother's Petty Greatest Hits album. And we ended up, because of a decision that he made, that he convinced me to turn around. He said, "No, we'll catch him another time." And I was didn't want to get talked into it, but I did, because whatever. And so we turned around, and 4 days later, Petty had a stroke and was gone. So I never got to see him play. And so a couple years ago in December, I went to see Fleetwood Mac with Roxy Stryker. And Mike Campbell he's a guitar player from the Heartbreakers, was playing lead for Fleetwood because Lindsey Buckingham was not with the band anymore. And a lot of people know Stevie Nicks had a long relationship with Tom Petty, and they were very close, and they were on songs together. And so it's a very, very, very good show, and it's emotional. Fleetwood was like in the top couple favorite bands of Roxy's mom. I think she's talked about on shows before, so it meant a lot to her to see him. And it gets to the encore, and we're sitting there, and you can hear him walk out. You hear it's like counting, and they get the 8th count, and you hear the first chord of Free Fallin'. And it's Mike Campbell playing it, the guy that wrote it with Petty. He plays the first chord of Free Fallin', and a big image of Petty comes up on the screen behind Stevie. And they sing it together, and you can tell I'm like tearing up talking about it. It's such an emotional moment for everyone watching it, and for me watching it, because it just hits so hard that I never got to see him do it. But it was so cool that these people that loved him so much got to do it as part of the show. So that was a moment in a concert that I remember like really, really got me.
Yeah, I never got to see Petty live. He is obviously, one of the most powerful and influential people to come out of like the 80s and 90s. But he I got to meet him.
Really?
We were in Pittsburgh, and I was drinking at the bar at the hotel after one of our shows, and it was starting to like die down. It was a pretty ritzy hotel. Like, it was really nice. But there was like a convention, some sort of business convention there. So there was like a whole bunch of guys and like females around, and it was just one of those like post-convention like hookup kind of bars. And I was done with it. I was exhausted. I think I just worked a double. I smelled like I didn't want to go to my room because I would have just died on my bed. And like I went to the bar and I was just sitting at the bar, just surly and just smelly and gross after a show. And I was just sitting there drinking my Jameson and ginger. And this guy comes and sits next to me, and he's like, you know, when you can feel your own, like, you know, you're in the presence of somebody that's just as surly and angry and bitchy and like has the right to be that way, and you just like commiserate in your anger.
Yeah.
It was one of Tom Petty's crew guys. And I was like, oh shit. Like, we started talking because, like, you know, going from working with like punk and metal bands to working with Broadway, it's a very different mentality. And every now and then I would slip back into that, you know, tour mentality of like being like, why are we still in this city? Like, can we move on yet? Like, I just want to listen to, you know, some Rage Against the Machine at my booth and not have, you know, old people that are ushers yell at me. And so like this guy came and sat down and he was like grumbling to himself, and I was like, rough night. And he goes, dude, our load-in was insane. And I was like, oh, who are you loading in for? And he goes, oh, I'm on tour. And I'm like, no, I know. Like, obviously I know, because I'm asking you, like, who are you on tour with? And he goes, don't say anything, but we're on tour with Tom Petty. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. I'm a huge fan. Like, I'm on tour with, you know, American in Paris and all this. And we start talking, and he's like, yeah, we've got like 2 nights here, so we'll be at the bar. Like, I'll probably see you tomorrow night. I'm like, great. So the next night we meet up at the bar, have a drink, and they do the show. They come back. Second night, Tom Petty's at the bar, but on the other side, like in a corner. And I see him, and I'm like, I have to, like, because he gets back before the crew and they're doing loadout. So I like walk over and I drop the guy's name. I'm like, I'm a friend of this guy. And he goes, oh yeah, he's really nice. I'm like, yeah, he's kind of an asshole. And like, he starts laughing. So we like sit there and have this drink, and I have this like 20-minute talk with Tom Petty. And it's like, like, I'm trying not to cry while I'm talking to him because he's Tom Petty. And like, like, he's the nicest man in the world. And he was just wanting to get a drink and hang out. And I just was like, cool.
That's so cool. Yeah.
I love you. Awesome. It's no big deal. I love you. You're awesome. Thanks for everything. Is there a band that other than Tom Petty, that you haven't seen that is still touring that you would love to see?
Guns. Yeah. I didn't, for whatever reason, when they did the big reunion, and I saw Guns with Buckethead, but when they did the big reunion with Slash, I think it had something to do with the fact that like their reunion tour felt so commercial and like mainstream compared to the way that I had felt about Guns for such a long time. I got into Guns N' Roses when I was like 12 years old, you know, in like 2000. Like, at that point, they had been broken up for a few years, and they had sort of transcended beyond that like hair metal genre they came out of. People were like talking about them as a real rock and roll band, and I felt like they were never going to reunion ever. It was like they'd all said it. And so when finally it happened, I guess it just felt like this big, huge ticket that everybody wanted to go to. And it was like a cool, trendy thing to want to go to in a weird way. I don't know why. I just somehow rejected that experience. It just didn't feel like something I wanted to go and do. But I think, you know, they'll probably tour again, and hopefully I'll see him.
Yeah, I think Dan and I are on the same. I had to pull this from earlier, but this is one band who I have met. I have met them.
That's cool.
When they were recording Skin and Bones, I was living in Tarzana, and there's a bar that was like a block and a half north of me called the Palladino. And it was where he doesn't go back there, so don't try and go back. But while they were recording, he would go there to play the songs live just to see how they sounded like in a venue.
Yeah.
And so I got hold on one second. And so I got to like see him. I got to see him live, but like I've never seen the Foo Fighters live, and that is something that I would love to see. I am a huge Foo Fighter fan, but I've never.
I saw them live. I saw them live in Seattle, probably like 2006, 7, right in there. Whatever the album that had The Pretender on it and Let It Die, what is like probably Echoes, Silence, something, whatever. It was like whatever that record was. That was the tour that I saw, and I remember I saw them by myself. I think I went to the show by myself, and that was awesome because I was getting really into the Foo Fighters at that point, because the Foo Fighters have a lot of big songs, but it really feels like they have in the end 3 or 4 like kind of iconic songs, like really iconic songs that I was really excited to get to go see live. Like I remember Best of You is obviously like just an amazing track, right? Everlong is amazing. Yeah, there's a couple. So that was an awesome show. I think I saw Muse around the same time.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. Apparently Peggy saw them twice at Wrigley. You can go fuck yourself. I was supposed to be at those shows, and I ended up last minute getting booked on a different show. Made me so mad. Oh yeah, that was when he pulled the Kurt Cobain and came out in a wheelchair. I remember that. That was a huge joke amongst his roadie friends and me. I
think I remember hearing that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got about 5 minutes left. If anybody has any questions, go ahead and submit them. I mean, everybody's wishing. Like, how are you feeling? Because I know that you released that whole video that you have been diagnosed, and everybody is super concerned about you because we love you. Just want to give us a quick little update.
I'm doing okay. I went and got tested this morning. I won't get the results for 7 to 10 days. I felt pretty great yesterday. I feel a little worse today, but that's been the case. It's gone back and forth like that. Yeah, I mean, I'm fine as of now. I just want this shit to go away. You know, I'm staying largely quarantined. At this point, I've had whatever I've had for so long. I'm well past the 14 days.
Yeah.
So I don't even think that it's really possible that I'm still contagious, considering it's been almost 21 since I started getting these symptoms, and almost 40 since I got over 40 days since I first started getting sick. But nonetheless, I'm still just trying to be as cautious as possible. And yeah, I'm okay though. I think because people don't know anyone who's had it really, like most people don't know anybody personally, people are imagining that I'm feeling a lot worse. It really is just, there's smoke in my lungs. If you guys have ever had asthma, it's kind of like that. That's the extent of it. So.
Thanks. All right, it doesn't look like anybody's got any questions. So I think I'm going to end this. Movie Fanboy says, "Hey Rachel, nice to see you doing self-streaming promotion with some relaxing vibes. I hope you didn't have to put the hot man on an internet blackout to get the bandwidth you needed." No, he's fine to sit in the living room. Keep doing what you're doing. Looking forward to your next match exhibition, Steve. Thank you so much, Steve. You guys are the best. And Peggy donated and said, "Happy birthday, Rachel. Fun fact, this is Mark Ellis's money I'm sending." I won it off his trivia game a couple weeks ago. Thank you, Mark Ellis. 2 questions. 1, did either of you watch the TV show Smash when it was on? And 2, how excited are you for the Empire Records match? Okay, so the first one is for both of us, and the second one is for me. So did you ever watch Smash?
I never watched Smash, no.
Yeah, I didn't either, and it was because I was on tour and traveling like to a different city every like 39 hours. It was a really rough time. I should probably go back and watch it, but I've gotten the gist of it, and I am tomorrow night in an Empire Records match with Peggy, heading it up. You'll see the link on my Facebook page. I probably should have added it here. Peggy, if you want to add it to the comments, please do. But yeah, it's I'm a huge Empire Records fan, and I am very excited to face everybody off. So with that being one of our last questions, I'm going to end this in the only way that I know how now. With a question that ended one of my favorite movies, Almost Famous. Do you have to be happy to write a love song? Do you have to be sad to write a sad song? What is it you love about music?
Such a good ending. What did he say? Everything?
Yeah.
What do I love about music? I think what I love about music is what I said earlier in the show. It's the only thing I've ever been able to do that disconnects me from my brain in a way that is organic. And I think I cherish the ability to do that. It's a very special thing to be able to do. Some people do it naturally. Music is the thing that allows me to do it. So I love that.
Well, it's one of those amazing things that the guitar will always be there for you. No matter how much you put it into the proverbial corner and let it gather dust, you can always brush it off, tune it up, and strum it out. So on that note, thank you guys so much for tuning in for my second episode. This has made my birthday incredibly fantastic. Follow, subscribe, and like, and hit those bells, whatever it is. I haven't gotten the logo yet. But you guys are amazing, and thank you so much. And Ben, go ahead and tell everybody where they can find you and when, because I know you have a million things to shout about.
Yeah, you guys can find me at Ben Bateman Media on Twitter and Instagram. You can check out Action Industries on YouTube. Look out for Nerds in Suits. It's coming very soon. I'm very excited about that. And go check out our Patreon at patreon.com/Team Action. We have a bunch of cool stuff going on. Going doing old rewatches of all the old Team Action matches, Captain's Cabana. We've got the Action Guys, all kinds of fun stuff. So yeah, thanks for having me on, Rachel. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram right up there at RM Silvestrini. Subscribe to this channel. I might be releasing some really interesting stuff. I might be getting some of my Broadway friends on this show a little sooner rather than later. But again, thank you so much for coming on, Ben. And thank you for making my birthday so amazing. You guys are the best. Salute, guys. Thank you so much. Have a great night. Thank you. Good night.